drinking bourbon, sipping on some scotch. We get a little wild, but it's sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew. Man, we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon boys, raisins in hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon boys, we're here to have fun and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun, yeah.
All right, so everybody on YouTube, welcome. We are Facebook Live. Welcome there too. You know what? I'm going to try and do one last thing. I could send this off to some specific people that might want to watch tonight. So hold on, and then we'll get ready. Then we'll go. Let's go. Yep. And sure.
Just talk cool shit about whiskey. That's all you need to know.
That's all we need to do.
Just talk whiskey. That's it.
Talk cool
I
whiskey
lauded the whiskey in this country.
Convincing accent.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Ok, mira, chicos, lo que tú quieres. Si tú quieres beber whisky, vamos a beber whisky.
Damn.
What language you want?
Dude, we found
And
this
welcome.
guy. We found this guy downtown Nashville. He was looking for a job, so
Outside of Home Depot.
we just put him in the seat next to me.
Yeah, dude.
He was talking about drywall. I was like, "Fuck that, let's drink
Just get him back in
whiskey
the
and
truck,
everything's
man.
cool."
My ID says Jose
Master
Canseco.
Vexes. For you, my friend.
I'm not Arab.
Get in
Amigo.
He jumped in. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
All right, whiskey.
Stop speaking English, motherfucker.
Go back
So-
to your comments. It's fine.
Well, damn, son, what you want me to talk?
As you can see, we have fun on this podcast.
And that's what we do. I mean, that's all it's about. That's what whiskey is about.
Yeah.
Meeting people, making friends, and enjoying life, and fuck everything else, right?
Exactly.
Hey, there's no other object on earth that makes more friends than whiskey.
Absolutely.
And transcends all bullshit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's because you can. It's like if you're talking whiskey, it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is while you're drinking whiskey. You're there for a good time. You're not there to dispute a bunch of shit. You're just hanging out, having a good time, and that's what I find. It doesn't matter what nationality. It
I was gonna
doesn't
say not
matter
even
anything.
political only.
It
It's
transcends it all.
everything.
It transcends it all. And then when
Yeah.
you really get into it, you realize everybody at the core thinks pretty much the same.
Mhm.
So that's what I
whiskey's
love about
good.
it. So I'm almost there.
Pretty
I think
Perfect.
I am there. Okay.
Who's there?
I'm trying, that's what I try.
hey, you're brave. We haven't decided to go live yet, just for this reason.
Well, live is a challenge, but it took
Yeah.
me a certain amount of time to go live. That's for sure.
We'll
And-
get there one day.
It's always like you get it
I'm
down.
live all the time.
Yeah, that's a good way to get followers. It's just like stream the whole damn thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live all the time.
I mean, we can go live immediately if we go to OnlyFans. It would be
Yeah,
kind of
but
a
then
kind of
we're gonna have to
shock
do
because
weird shit.
The clothes would stay on. It would just
Can
be
I
the
get-
show. And you're
oh,
like, why are you
shit.
doing this? It's like
I want to see.
you couldn't get streaming rights on YouTube or
I'm not doing OnlyFans unless I can do weird shit with your feet.
Can I take my pants off?
Okay.
Okay.
We
Just
find
no tongue.
Okay, so yeah. All right.
Lips only.
I'm
buddy.
keeping the boots on though. If I take
Yeah,
my
I
pants
get to keep one of my boots on.
Well, that is the rule in the military, man. As long as you got your boots on, nothing's weird.
That's it.
I mean, it gets cold out there in the woods, As long as you keep your boots
off. Look at
on,
that.
you're just doing army shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what you when you're doing army shit, that's what you should be doing, right? When you're in the army,
keep your boots on.
keep
Yes.
them on.
Yeah, hanging around with dudes with no pants.
We don't
All
want
right.
to talk about that winter we got snowed in.
All
All
right,
right,
so
we're ready.
let's do the first introductions. So I'm Tiny of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, and then you guys go, and then you could finish Callie.
All right.
Cool. So I'm Andrew Lang. I'm the owner of Leatherwood Distillery here in Clarksville, Tennessee. Next to me.
Brian LaFond, I'm the head distiller.
Next to me over here, dude we found down at Home Depot.
Sí, me llamo Luis Gonzalez. Luis Gonzalez, former Navy CB. Unfortunately, his friend.
Unfortunately.
That escalated quickly.
And I'm Kaylee Baker. I do all the nerd shit. I'm the distillery director. So they get to do all the fun shit and distill, and then I get to do all the paperwork that keeps us going. So
Yeah, and you don't drink, right?
oh, of course not. Never. I never
Please.
drink.
Please.
Not once. No,
Yeah.
I get to hang out.
Well, I always find it's like the distilleries all are a team, and there's a certain aspect of what everybody does that's it's like if the distiller can just concentrate on distilling, and the owner can concentrate on owning and watching over everybody. But if everybody's doing their thing, it seems like the team usually gets pretty close because you all need each other. So that's one of the things. Maybe talk about that as far as every good distillery I've ever been to. It's not just about it, just one person doing one thing. It's about everybody. And it seems like most craft distilleries and a lot of the large distilleries, the people in there all seem to be very similar, hardworking, and very social and get along. So expand.
Yeah, it's important. Obviously, coming from special forces, where I came from in the military, like the team is the family. And when I opened up Leatherwood Distillery, I tried to do that from the get-go, like from my bartenders, from anybody that was working with me. I always wanted to find the right people that did the right things, people I could trust. And it took me 5 years to get to this point, but right now I'm at a point where I've got the right people. I've got Brian. He's my distiller, freaking 24 years, infantry. Kaylee, her husband, he was in the military. She also came from another distillery, so she understood the business. All my bartenders, I call them bartenders, but they really are at this point. They understand what Leatherwood Distillery products are. So when they mix cocktails, they're really doing justice to the product, which is awesome. I couldn't be happier with who I have working here right now.
Yeah, and I really found your story very interesting. And once we get the audio podcast going, we'll get into that. But for just this beginning, what is at the moment? I mean, a lot of the stuff that you've got bottled and everything, but is there anything new you're working on at the moment? As far as, are you to a point where you're working on something different or special, or there's different programs? A lot of as distilleries evolve, they usually have different things that are going on that are kind of special that set them apart. But do you have anything like that going on?
Yeah, we got a couple things. One of them actually right here, a buddy of mine who I was in special forces with, his brother approached me. And he's like, "Hey, my brother's retiring. I want to make this some cool, really craft whiskey or bourbon or something." So we came up with like 98% corn bourbon that we put in 5-gallon barrels. And we called it Rebel. And the reason why we called it Rebel, in Special Forces, our motto is Die Oppresso Liber, which means free the oppressed. So Liber backwards is Rebel. So he kind of came up with that idea. His brother's going to retire this year. So we're making a small batch bourbon that his brother can have at his retirement ceremony.
Oh, that's excellent.
It's
How
deep.
small
I get it.
was-
It's a little deep.
How small is a small batch for you?
We did 7 5-gallon barrels. Brian, how many cases did we get out of that first batch?
We ended up getting 17.
17 cases, 12 bottle cases, and they're only 375 bottles.
I like the 375 bottles. I actually, for the first time, was we were in Kentucky this past week, in Indiana and in Kentucky running around, but in Kentucky we stopped in at Peerless and they had some 200 milliliter bottles, which, you know, from a podcaster standpoint, that is perfect for me because
Yeah, you can send those out anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
it
only
doesn't
can
fill
you
up your
send them
shelf.
out, but you know, just think about it. I'll get probably lines from maybe every 6 months. I probably 6-7 different distilleries. They give me 3-4 bottles each, and then some of them send me samples. Some of them, like yourself, sent me the eye candy part of. I could put this up here, and I like, but at the same time, even if I find a whiskey I absolutely love, I just can't be concentrating on that because, you know, you're doing 2 podcasts a week. You're maybe meeting some people and you're doing some tastings. If I start drinking the whiskey out of the bottle and finishing off bottles, it would be over for me. And I'm sure that's similar for you guys. You guys are always tasting and you're going along, and everybody in the industry I know has to deal with the fact that you just don't want it to start to bite you in the ass because it can.
Yeah, you know what's cool with this batch, these 375 bottles. It kind of woke me up. We've got some really awesome stuff in barrels that are 2 to 4 years old. And we can't distribute that because we've only got 1 or 2 barrels. So, looking at these bottles, we're going to do the same thing with some barrel picks that are 113, 115 proof. And we can get 40 cases out of one of those barrels at these smaller bottles. And so we're going to start doing that. Yeah.
And it's just more for everybody, right? This way,
Just goes further.
Opposed to 20 people, 20 cases, that's just who gets it. And if you got 40, you could spread the love. There's no doubt. And I think you're seeing that more and more, especially with the special releases. I think Woodford's doing it with their double oaks are 3.7. Yeah, 3.7.
Yeah, everybody's doing it.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah. So it's really kind of a cool thing. That's for sure. All right, so that was a good start. So I heard everybody's name. I know Kelly. I know Brian. I know Andrew. Is it Andrew or Andy?
Andy.
And then
Luis.
Okay. All right.
If you want to say it sexy, you say Luis.
Yeah, one of my trademarks is just fucking on the spot forgetting people's names. I mean, sometimes I'll be sitting here and somebody will have been on and I've been hanging out with them 5-10 times. I'll know his name and he'll come up and I'll just doubt myself. It's just unbelievable how bad I am at with names. It's just
nobody cares. It's cool.
Yeah, there you go.
I've been called worse.
Yeah, I've been called way worse.
Luis. Haven't we all?
Yeah, so Luis is the third member of the Whiskey Warriors podcast. And And you think when we say whiskey warriors, we're just like sampling whiskey and talking about whiskey? No, we're talking shit about what's going on politically, and we do sample whiskey and all that. But
well, then
that's
more
what we're
shit.
doing here.
Sample the whiskey and talk more shit. No, I kind of got that when we started with the start off. I did that you guys are going in all the directions.
Yes, we got to cover all bases.
All right, so I'll get this going. Let me start the speaker. Yep, that's going. Yeah, let's do a Face ID. All right. Ready to go. All right. All right. There'll be a 30-second spot where we're being quiet for our sponsor. It's actually the Spirits of French Lick. Alan Bishop down there is a great distiller. So they sponsor our podcast, and this will be the 30-second spot. All right.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys fans, this is Alan Bishop, Indiana's alchemist of the Black Forest. So I'm tuning in here today to tell you all about the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute channel on YouTube. If you're at all interested in the art of distilling, whether it be home distilling or professional distilling, and the intense geekery that goes into that process, then check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. I promise you're going to learn something you didn't know before about the arts. This is Alan Bishop, head alchemist at Spirits of French Lick. Be on the lookout for a brand new bottled and bond Solomon Scott rye whiskey, made from a mash composed of 65% rye, 35% corn, and 5% victory malt. This 5-year-old 100 proof rye whiskey is a throwback to early 1800s style rye whiskeys of the Ohio Valley. Named after the legendary Daisy Spring Mill distillery owner turned moonshiner Solomon Scott of Paoli, Indiana. Remember, drink responsibly and never drink and drive.
Drinking bourbon, sipping on some scotch. We get a little wild, but it's sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew. Man, we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, raisins in hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. We're here to have fun and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun.
All right. Welcome to another exciting podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Tonight, we got a special podcast, and thanks to Kenny Fuller of the Old Americana Band for doing our theme song. We really appreciate that, Kenny. But we got this special podcast tonight. We have a lot of the staff from Leatherwood Distillery. We have the owner, Andrew. We've got the head distiller, Brian, and we have Lewis along with Kaylee. Welcome everybody to the podcast. Really appreciate having you guys on tonight.
Thanks for having us, man. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So we were just doing the pregame and let's start off because I haven't had shit to drink tonight, and
Lies.
Yeah.
and why don't we you
Me
sent
too,
up
sorry.
a
It's good.
bunch of samples. Pick what you want me to start off with so I could get something in my glass.
I think you started off with the snake eater for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let me get that started. It's funny because I was monitoring the Facebook, and for some reason Let's see. Yep. Check. We're just talking about the straight one right off the bat, right? The bourbon.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we go.
Snake Eater Bourbon, 85 proof. It's a wheated bourbon. Shit. I should know this off the top of my head, but it's about 61% corn, only I think 6% barley, the rest is wheat.
So what's the was there an age on that?
I'm not sure what you got, but if it's what I got, it's probably right at 2 years.
Yeah.
Says it on the back, should be, Jeff.
Yeah, if you look on the back, so that's one of the cool things about Leatherwood Distillery that we do. On the back label, we tell you if it's 100% Leatherwood Distillery bourbon. Sometimes we have to blend it with something that we purchased from someone else because we're so small. And it tells you the percentage of ours versus who we bought, and then the age of each one.
Okay.
Sometimes you get lucky just on the shelf. You get 100% Leatherwood bourbon. Sometimes we have a contract with Tennessee Distilling Company. They make really good wheated bourbon, and it's almost exactly like ours. So it's cool. When we blend it, you don't even know the difference.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you guys, how long have you been, what was the starting point as far as when you started to distill your own?
So we started 2017. Right off the bat, we opened up the same time we started distilling. So in our tasting room, we started with our moonshines, our rum, different flavored rums. And in the background, we were distilling bourbon, distilling rye, doing our sweet feed whiskey. We started out with 15-gallon barrels. And I think we started bottling about 9 months in a 15-gallon barrel.
Okay.
And we did that for about 2 years.
Okay. So are you pot distilling or column distilling?
So we've got a combination. We've got a pot still. It's a stainless steel pot. And then we have a column on top of it with a defibrillator on the top and then an actual condenser.
Okay.
So we get a good reflux to separate the heads from the hearts. And then once the hearts start coming out, it's super clean.
So there we go. So you are talking, but you're doing batches as far as distilling. You're not continuously you're not running that continuous. Did you do the batch and then so it's more like exactly what a pot still is?
Yeah, we have a mash cooker. We batch a mash. It gets fermented for about 6 to 7 days. That batch goes in the still. It gets run. The only continuous part is we keep a portion of those tails from the first run and put it back in the next run.
Okay, so you run a sour mash, so that's pretty normal. It helps keep consistency. There's no doubt about it. So all right, so now what about, so you were talking about, do you do the different types of barrels that you're putting the whiskey in? Are you putting it all, I mean, how many different, are you using 53-gallon barrels? Are you using 5-gallon, or is it a combination of all of them?
So for our bourbon and our rye, we're 100% 53-gallon now. I think we transitioned our last 25-gallon last year.
Mm-hmm.
We have one barrel that's 4 years old that we hid so I couldn't see it and drink it. It's a rye whiskey. We're actually going to bottle it as a small batch at barrel strength. I think we'll only probably get maybe 10 or 15, maybe 10 cases out of it. But it is phenomenal.
It's
Other
delicious.
than that, now we're going total 53-gallon barrels.
Okay. I mean, that's one thing. It's just being around so many distillers and seeing all the distilleries and how each one has to make its way through to survive. I mean, what you're doing is not a cheap endeavor, and it's a huge investment. You invest time and money, and to get stuff, so you guys are doing it similar to a lot. You do the moonshine in the tasting room, and now are you still doing moonshine at the moment?
So we our moonshine is actually rum. So we did a sugar shine starting out. That's what I made for 25 years on my own at home.
Okay.
And we add flavors to it. So we call it a moonshine, but that's just in the name, but it's a flavored rum. And like you said, this is a business of love. You've got to love what you're doing. You've got to accept that you're not going to make a dime for a long time. Right.
Right.
But
trying to keep the
you're going to
open.
put something out that is good.
Right. Oh, I find that the craft distillery model, there's a lot of them, like you're sourcing, from another distillery to,
that's the big income. That's the big income model. I didn't decide to do that. There's a great business plan and there's a horrible one. I picked the horrible one.
Yeah, it's just like, and I've seen it all the different ways in order to keep going, and then there's that point where it gets serious. I mean, where all of a sudden you're up and running, you got the stuff going and then the demand starts, and then it's kind of like that's when the actual, and you guys seem to be at that point where you're starting to produce, you're putting it in 53 gallons, you're starting to put it out there, it's getting distributed, that type of thing all around. And the one thing about liquor as a whole, you're talking about moonshine, gin, vodkas, whatever, is that there's a certain amount of people that if you're producing bourbon that will drink the shit out of flavored rum,
right.
Like the wives and the people and and I'm sure wedding parties and whatnot, they're really not into drinking the serious shit, the whiskey, but at the same time, it's definitely the money making part of the whole industry, and so, talk about how you balance that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you have to sell a ton of the flavored rums and the other things that people are going to come in. We have some really awesome cocktails that we make in our tasting room that kind of keep the operation running in the back, right? And we have to do the rum. We're going to start some gin soon. We actually purchased vodka. So we have a vodka. We also distill an agave spirit.
Okay.
Because we can't call it tequila because we're not in fucking Mexico.
Nope.
I mean, even though it's the same exact thing.
Right, just like they can't make bourbon, even though they have corn in Mexico. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they can't make bourbon. So yeah, I get it.
So we make sure that the bar is taken care of, and it brings people in that do cocktails, and then that funds all the good stuff that we're making that we have to age for 2 years.
Yeah. And it's at liquor store tastings and stuff too. It's a helpful draw for people. If you just have bourbon, vodka, straight rum, it's kind of hard to get somebody that doesn't normally drink liquor to come over and taste your product without something a little bit fruitier on the table there.
Yeah, I understand the marketing. Now, marketing to me, you could get rid of all that other shit. You got good bourbon, I'm right there. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
So I went through, and as I always do, if someone sends me samples, I don't like to be surprised. And I've also, if I didn't like what you were doing, like one of the whiskeys, I would have contacted Kaylee and let her know that on that one I wasn't a fan. But you know, as a distiller, that's another thing. And Brian, this question's for you. Like when you're distilling and you're distilling something that you necessarily might not like, but you know the rest of the world needs it. How do you go about that? You know what I mean? Because I
I like
know
the way you phrase that.
you know, because I've met a owner and distiller, and the man loves gin and doesn't like bourbon, and there's no doubt that that particular distillery produces some good gin, which I absolutely despise, and can't produce any bourbon because he doesn't give a shit about bourbon. So how does that work if you're producing something that you personally don't like, but you're distilling it because you have to produce it so someone else likes it?
Well, that's just kind of it. I mean, people have an expectation that when they have a drink, that it tastes the way that they remember it tasting. If I were to sit there and do a run and I knew that, one, I didn't really prefer the spirit that I was creating, and two, I just didn't care about it, and then I decided to put it in a bottle and charge somebody a premium to ingest it, that would make us look like a bunch of assholes. You know what I mean? So here's the deal, is that the same amount of care that I put into creating the bourbon, I'll put it into making the rum, or put it into generating the vodka, or in future projects, gin, as an example. I'm not a huge connoisseur by any stretch of the imagination in hard alcohol. I'll drink it like it's my job. And incidentally, it is my job right now. Right? But here's the thing is that, a lot of the things that make drinking liquor toxic to the human body, it has a lot to do with the care that's being imparted when it's being created. If you don't care, then somebody goes and drinks it and they fall apart after who knows how many years. That's something that's completely preventable.
Yep.
Those heads can be removed. Those toxins can be removed, whether it's methanol or acetone, right? We can minimize that to a large extent, or err on the side of caution and make sure that the only thing that's coming out of the parrot is straight ethanol. I can do that, but I have a feeling that maybe some of my colleagues in the industry don't put as much emphasis on that. You know what I mean? And so for me, I'm in a community where the people are going to come in, they're going to drink it, and then if they have a bad reaction to it, I imagine they might come back and let me know what they think. I'd rather not have that encounter.
Right. And then they also might not buy your shit. So that's one thing, but
true,
you want them coming back to buy more. But, this is one industry that is, I mean, the alcohol industry has some dark shit that goes on, but doesn't all industries have dark shit that goes on? I mean, it just really comes down to that. It's just like people run it, and the good people, what I like is you guys are making it, you own it, you're pushing it out, yes, it's hard, and you're hardworking, and you have a passion, but you don't have someone at this point telling you have to, you've got to hit this mark or you got to hit that mark. Right. You're setting those marks by yourselves. And that's one of the things I like about craft distilleries and the people that run it, because they're just, people like yourself. So, I would say that, like I said, I liked, sometimes there's some things that I don't like, but straight across the board. And, like you said, you're using the pot still, you're using the hearts, you're taking all that stuff out. So at 2 years, your whiskey can be good. It's been in the barrel, but you don't need that maturation to filter out some of the shit that's in it, so that people don't get sick. Also, that's another reason why some people leave it in the barrel a lot longer.
And exactly, that's a problem we have in the industry, right? Like over the years, this marketing campaign saying that you have to put something in a barrel for 10 years for it to be good. That's bullshit. right? If you
Right.
make something, if it tastes really good off the still, you're only, all you're trying to do when you put it in a barrel is you're adding some caramels, you're adding some colors and some vanillas.
And
Mhm.
some
Right.
wood.
I'm not trying to
wood beans.
filter that whiskey because it tastes like shit before it went in the barrel.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's the key to a real micro distillery.
Well, and then I meet people that, like love that big rich, and they don't want to taste the grain that's in there, that flavor, that little bit of fruit or whatever in their bourbon, let's just say. But at the same time, that's what Kentucky's for. You know what I mean? They could go off and do that. In Tennessee, you guys can do that. In Indiana, they can do. You can stay true to pulling some of those grains out of there, or the yeast strain, and have that in there, not completely lost in the barrel for, after 10, 12 years. That's one of the great things. So also, Lewis,
Yes.
tell us what you do there.
Let's see. I provide entertainment.
He's a good drinker.
Long story short, Andy's wife and my wife used to work together. I was in the military. I was gone for a long time. I come back, met Andy.
Our
For some
kids are just
reason,
best
he
friends.
likes me. I don't know why. I mean, but he does. But no, I mean, I try and help him out in every aspect that he asked me to, no matter what it is, whether it's family, business, watching his son. It doesn't matter. I'm here for him. We're homeboys, and I got his back.
There you go. You got it. And
So
when you're there, you do what has to be done, right?
Sure.
And he's the resident asshole on our podcast.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Yeah.
He's the one that wants to leave some heads in there to get a banana flavor, right?
Damn, that's dirty.
Banana flavor.
We don't know each other yet.
That's something.
Yeah, good for you.
Is it the Navy? Is it the Navy flag behind me? Is that why you're saying that?
No,
I mean,
it's
shit.
because he called you the resident asshole. So I figured,
Yeah.
Brian was talking
not
about
that
we
type
be
of
assholes.
asshole. I'm still tight.
That's it.
All right, so let's go to Kaylee. What do you do? I mean, we talked a little bit, but it sounds like you do everything too.
Yeah, everything except for what they do in the back. I mean, I've helped out with bottling and stuff before, of course, but I'm more the background stuff. So any social media post you see has come from me, pretty much. I mean, Andy occasionally will throw up a live feed like he did on Sunday when he was getting IV hydration done at our distillery, which good on you for doing that, Andy, because I'm still blocked from doing lives for the next 20 days or whatever. So
that comes back to me. I'm not allowed to do social media because every time I do it, she gets blocked.
Yeah.
So it's you get blocked because you're putting it up. It's on. You put it up on, and then especially if you're talking Facebook or Twitter. I mean, you can get blocked.
It was.
So
Facebook
what
and
I put
Instagram.
up is I put Hunter Biden hanging from the Chinese balloon and holding a Leatherwood bottle.
Yeah,
and they
that'll get you blocked.
The only
but he's holding the bottle.
The only thing he
underwear,
left out,
right? Hunter Biden in his underwear. That's
he
the
was in his
classic
underwear.
one.
Yeah,
I was gonna say the only thing he left out there was that Hunter Biden was in his underwear.
Yeah, I've seen the memes. Okay,
it was funny.
It is funny, but also every single person that puts those memes up after like the third time, like first time you put them in front of a garage full of documents, and then you put them. And then especially if you put them up there smoking crack, which there's a bunch of memes for that, that'll get you, that gets you banned too. I mean, it's like Hunter right now is Twitter, Facebook banning straight up. You put
come on.
We're even saying
it's just
Hunter.
funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they had no problem if you held Trump's head up, chopped off his head. They didn't have any problem with that.
So true.
Of course
They had
not.
to You had to have outrage before they would remove something like that. Yeah. So,
He didn't have crack in his mouth with his head.
that's one thing Trump wasn't. He wasn't. He
Yeah.
doesn't drink or doesn't do anything.
That's the only thing I don't like about Trump. He doesn't drink.
I respect him why he doesn't drink. I mean,
I don't know.
if you had a dad, you got to give him, credit because
Yeah.
maybe he couldn't
I
handle
can't
it.
have a serious conversation with you if you can't have a drink.
Well,
Just saying.
then you can have a serious conversation with me. Why?
Well, I can't have a serious conversation with anyone anyway.
So you're not
Yeah, I'm not a very serious person anyway.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so there's that. So I'm still on a 25 something day Facebook ban and Instagram ban from that. So that's the last time I listen to Andy for when he tells me to post anything, or at least the last time I don't use my own discretion before posting it.
I might have been drinking some whiskey.
I think maybe
Some Leatherwood whiskey.
It's honestly just implied anytime I get a text after about the hours of 3 p.m. But
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So yeah, I do all the boring nerd shit as the boys like to call it. It's all the paperwork, it's all the taxes, and I do scheduling for the bartenders and the live music, and it's a lot. It's everything, but it's all the shit that needs to happen so that Brian and Andy can stay focused on distilling and selling and shit.
Well, there's no doubt. Running this thing, I've gotten a lot of stuff down, but I'm the technical guy. I buy the equipment. You got to stay on top of that. Then I do all the posting. I do all the social media promotion. I do all the booking. I've been getting some help lately, which helps out. But when we go, we do. I'd love to come down and do a live podcast with you right from the distillery. We do stuff like that, and we go on trips, and that's a lot of fun and get a lot of. The greatest thing about when you podcast, you walk into a distillery and you mention the Scotch that you're Tiny from the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. And at first, the people that out front greet you, they're kind of like they don't know, and they're kind of whatever. And then all of a sudden, it trickles back to back in the distillery, and before you know it, I'm having initially I can't even get a bottle of this, and then the next thing I know, I'm drinking with the owner and getting every single thing that they have that's set aside to be special. And I just love that aspect because it's such a good time, and meeting the people, and then sharing pours and just getting to know everybody. Because like I said, I don't know too many. I haven't been to too many distilleries and had negative kind of experiences or not made friends, and that's one of the great things about it. So
that's the cool thing about our distillery too. Everybody that works here understands what we're doing, right? It's when people come in, a lot of times, because at nighttime, our distillery is kind of a bar feel to it. It's live music or it's karaoke. But the bartenders always, if somebody comes in, they're like, hey, let me get a Jack and Coke. And they're like, stop. That's not what we do here, but I'm going to give you something that you're going to love more than that.
Yeah.
And then they tell them why, and it's a pretty good thing, man. We got a great crew here that really takes care of stuff.
And the fact that you can tell them it's local too, and it's made in the next room is a huge selling point as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the key is that they get a little bit fucked up. And then that's
the whole point of it.
Yep. So let's get into a little bit about how this all started. And your backgrounds. And there's that like I always say to people in the military, I really appreciate the sacrifice. I understand because I have friends that have done this. I've had fathers that have sent their sons and deal with PTSD and everything that you guys have to go through when you go. And I know that everybody doesn't go through the same experience, but at the same time, getting sent to another place and doing the things that you got to do and you're being asked to do is not an easy thing. and then coming back and, doing what you're doing now, and taking what you've learned, but talk about, how it started. I mean, it's a great story.
Yeah. So I actually started, it's almost 27 years ago now. I started making some beer and made homemade wine. And I was giving all that beer and wine to my friends and then going out and buying whiskey. And me and a buddy were like, man, we need to just learn how to make whiskey because I'm tired of making shit for everybody else. One of the first things I ever made overseas. So I came from infantry. I started out infantry. I did about 7 years in the infantry. And then I went to special forces. And I was sitting in Kuwait, getting ready to cross the border for the invasion of Iraq. And I had talked a lot of shit about I can make liquor out of anything. And I was the new guy on the team. So my team sergeant, freaking L. Johnson, threw me an MRE, meal ready to eat, one of those packets that we eat in the Army. And he's like, make whiskey or something out of this. Make me some alcohol. I was like, oh, shit. So I opened it up and I saw some Skittles packets. There was a piece of bread. I was like, okay, so there's sugar in the Skittles. There's yeast in this bread. I can make some freaking Skittles wine. So I cracked open like 10 MREs and took all the Skittles. I melted the Skittles down. So it was like just a big sugar wash of Skittles, water.
Mm-hmm.
Cooled it down, and I crumpled up a whole bunch of different what do they call them? Shelf stable bread.
Yeah.
Put it in there, and then I took these water bottles and I put the fluid in there with the yeast, and I took a piece of surgical tubing, put it over the top because for wine you got to make an airlock, right? It's not like whiskey; it's got to have an airlock.
Mm-hmm.
So I put this surgical tubing over it and then put it into another bottle of water so that as it fermented, the CO2 would bubble out into the freaking water, but oxygen couldn't get back in. So I basically made Skittles wine. Yeah, sitting on the border, we got fucked up on some really nasty Skittles wine.
It did the
it worked.
Served the purpose of getting fucked up, right?
Yeah, it totally worked. And then after that, over the years, I started learning. It took me about 2 years to actually make something through a still that was good. And actually right next to me and Brian here is my original still. You can see it. That's technically by the Army standard, that is a water purification device.
Mm-hmm.
That we put that on our pallet and took it with us on deployments. And we would make whiskey every now and then. My last couple trips over in Afghanistan, I was on a mountain team, so we had mules and horses that we would take up in the mountains to do operations. And one day we're sitting there in the camp and some parachutes came in and this pallet was just filled with grain for the horses and mules. So I decided to make whiskey out of that grain before we fed it to the horses
and mules, right? You could feed them some fruit.
We had corn, we had wheat, we had freaking like sweet feed, and that's where that whiskey you got on your table there, sweet feed whiskey, that's where that came from. That's an actual grain that you get in a store, any type of what's the word I'm looking for? Any kind of store where you're buying grains for mules or horses.
Tractor supply sort of things.
Yeah. So basically we had all the ingredients for sweet feed, and I'd been making sweet feed whiskey at home. It's one of the original moonshine whiskey recipes. So we made that in Afghanistan. After we ran it through the still, we're like, oh shit, now we got to freaking figure out how to make it brown. So we had my interpreter go out and find some like just firewood basically. And we threw that in the freaking fire pit, charcoaled it up. So we put this whiskey that was fresh off the still, put it in a pot with the charred wood that he found, and turned it brown. So that's kind of the original. That's where we came from. And then I was getting ready to retire in 2017. And a couple buddies of mine, we were sitting around, and they were like, what are you going to do when you retire? I was like, I'm probably just going to go contract and do whatever the Green Beret does and go back overseas and do the same thing I'm doing. They're like, nah, we want to keep you around for a while. So let's find some people, pitch some money in. And I think you need to do this for real. Like, this is good stuff. And that's how the distillery started.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
Actually, what's funny, sitting right behind the camera here is the old mayor of the town we decided to start our distillery in.
Oh.
So we went over to his house, and I brought some products, and I was like, hey, here's the deal. Like, I've been making this for years. We can make a nice little distillery in your town. And he helped all of us basically work through the legal process and like kind of rewriting the rules for that town so that I could put the distillery. So yeah, thanks, Mr. Perry.
So there
What's
you
up,
go.
Perry?
Come on up here, Perry. Come over here. You're here. You might as well jump in and
Yeah, you might as well say hey.
show your face and say hi. What's going
Hey,
on?
Perry.
Well,
There you go.
What?
You know, we got former mayors on our side too.
yeah, that's
Maybe a little,
a little former,
maybe a little. Happily retired,
happily retired.
very happily retired. No, and Andy's super gracious, but listen, it was his vision, it was his plan. We may or may not have sampled a little too much that night, and he may or may not have snookered me into this thing. But at the end of it, he laughs because he knows it's true. But at the end of it, honestly, man, he's got a great vision, and it's a great business. It's a huge asset to the community, and we're just truly fortunate to have him. And honestly, again, it was our pleasure to help other people that have dedicated so much of their life to our country and others to help them see this vision come true.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could see your point of view totally. Not only is he giving to the, when distilleries are always so much a part of the community, and they're part of tourism and bringing in, and it's also part about creating jobs and having a family. And then also your service and dedication prior. And I really find it cool that when you came back, or before you came back, they were already telling you they want you to do this. So that in itself has to be like an ego trip that, I must be halfway decent at this if they really want me to go and start making it, for real. and then
honestly,
also,
it was like, from where I came from, everybody's looking out to get you, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
like, honestly, in the back of my mind, I was like, why do these people want me to do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's good whiskey.
It's really good.
Well,
whiskey.
yeah, that in for real, in the back of my brain, I was like, why do these people want me? They just want something, blah blah. And it took me a couple of years before I could realize that, there are actually people that just want to help veterans, want to help people just get ahead in life and do something. You know what I mean?
Well, I find that usually if you do something special, it kind of trumps a lot of bullshit, because you're tasting something, you think it's good. So, you're like, if you were just doing something average and they gave it shit, it would have not amounted to, but they all wanted to support you because they knew that not only do you need to do something else, but you were doing something really good. And so, right there, but I get you being where you were coming from, you kind of trust nobody. And it took a while to get back and start trusting people after it, hey, maybe this is going to go right.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
It's
But
been great. I got great partners. Everybody's really gone far beyond trying to help me make this work.
Yeah.
So
and there's still
awesome.
someone out there that'll try and fuck you, but you know what?
Oh yeah.
That's not, life. It's going to happen and you can do it. It's life.
Done that.
You know what? Karma is everything, right?
Yeah.
We hope so.
Just don't fuck with the wrong person. You see what you get.
Yeah. I agree with that totally.
What's that graph? Fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then how, once you were back, I mean, you started it in 2017, but how long did it take you to get from, once you were back to 2017? What was the time frame? Was it instant?
It's about a year.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got to say, my chain of command, the unit I came from, obviously we're a specialized unit. And my commanders all they knew what I was going to do because they've all been a part of this also. So my last year in the Army was basically take care of yourself, prepare yourself for life outside of the Army. And they just let me do what I needed to do. My sergeant majors were like, hey, just call me once a week. Let me know you're alive. Everything's cool. And if you need any help, just let me know. So it's pretty awesome.
And that
they got your back.
Well, I was going to say that timeline worked out really well for Andy because while he was making that transition, obviously coming into a community that didn't have any laws on the books to help somebody like Andy get a distillery up and running, we needed a little bit of time to be able to get those laws in place, get them passed, that kind of thing. And then he needed time to be able to get his distillery
just build it
built
up
because you literally built it out of a shell.
Yeah.
And that wasn't an overnight process either. So the timeline just seemed to, everything just fell right into place.
Everything worked out great. It was just perfect.
I find myself personally, since I'm actually come from an art background, and I had a lot of stuff when it comes to the art background where nice to meet you. Thanks for sitting in. But I find that Brian's back. I find that I had a lot of, when it came to the art background, there wasn't a lot of, what would you say? A lot of people loved what I do and told me that I was good, but there was not a lot of breaks that happened. And then once I started to get into the whiskey thing, almost everything and every decision I've made seems to take me down the path that I sit back sometimes and I go, is this going to end? Am I going to make up because all the decisions that I'm making towards it just seem to pan out, and the people I meet seem to pan out, and the things that we're doing, and how I'm, how the podcast is getting bigger, and how many people know who I am. I like to have about the perfect amount of fame. It's like if I go someplace, I'm in Ohio now, in my own town, not a lot of recognition. Now it's starting to change a little bit, but I've gone to Louisville, got out of the car, and across the street, someone's yelling "Tiny" and coming up and running up and taking pictures. But that's like far and little bit, but enough to stroke your ego, right? It's not like you go there and it's you're eating dinner and everybody's bothering you. You don't want that kind. But at the same time, it sounds like every time there's a crossroad or you're trying to, and you make that decision, you are, it's like you're working hard, but those decisions are panning out.
Well, that's the thing, like anything you do, if you keep pushing forward, and that's the old thing we had in the infantry or in the SF, is you move towards the enemy, right?
Right.
What is my goal? My goal is this. So I have to keep moving forward. And if I stop, then it's not going to work anymore. As long as I keep pushing forward, I will always meet my objective. right? And it doesn't matter what you're doing in life. You just keep putting one step forward, one step forward, one step forward. It's either going to work or it's not. And if it doesn't work, guess what? You take a step right and you start moving forward again. Take a step left, move forward again. And it's always going to work out.
A lot of people accept defeat.
You're right.
They get obstacles put in front of them, or they create their own obstacles, and then they want to accept defeat. We weren't taught that. You were taught to push forward, persevere.
Yeah.
That's it.
No.
Keep moving forward.
And that's a great attitude. I could even take it one step forward. If something happened that is perceived to be defeating, if you don't look at it that way, you learn from it and you keep moving forward. So it's not technically defeat. It's just an obstacle you have to overcome. But there's so many people that will accept that as defeat and stop because they don't want to face any more obstacles.
And
you don't learn from losing.
Nope.
You don't win from winning, right?
I think now's a good time
sorry,
to
you
explain
can't
your
learn
thing.
from winning,
What?
right? You learn from losing.
Yeah.
When you lose and something happens, you learn from that and you figure out how to move forward. If you're constantly winning, well, guess what? You're gonna fall off a cliff at some
Comes
point.
too easy.
Andy, I think you
That's
need
right.
to explain one big obstacle that you overcame a few years ago that almost took the business from you.
Yeah, so we had a fire in Pleasant View during the pandemic. It
Wonderful.
was a double
Just
fuck you.
Kick it while you're down. Yeah.
So like we got shut down like everything else. Even in Tennessee for a couple of weeks, we got shut down as a distillery. So I transitioned. I started making hand sanitizer, which we all know is fucking bullshit anyway. But I made $40,000 in like a month making hand sanitizer. And then all of a sudden, I got a call one morning from the fire chief. He's like, Andy, you need to come to the distillery. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, the shit's on fire. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. And instantly, like I just like had like my heart just dropped. I'm like, holy shit, man. So I drove up to the distillery, and when I pulled up, there was like almost, I was expecting to see this plume of smoke and all this like bombs going off with whiskey barrels.
Yeah.
And, I had a good relationship with the fire department in Pleasant View. So they knew where everything was. They knew what I was doing. They actually showed up at a point when they had two shifts. They were doing shift change. So they had twice as many firemen.
Mm-hmm.
They came in, they put the fire out in like 5 minutes. Right. And that's not to say it didn't fuck the whole building up.
No,
and like it was complete destruction. We had to replace everything. It was a big fight with insurance. In the end, basically after 4 years, we started at ground zero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I hit that point. I did hit that point where I was sitting at home and I was like, dude, do I want to do this? Do I want to start over again? And, just like, I think my background was, I don't care how much you punch me in the face. I will keep moving forward and keep trying, and I'm going to make this thing work. So I moved forward, and we just got lucky, and the cool thing was, call it fucking fate, whatever. We had this barrels of glycerol that you put in hand sanitizer. That's the gel shit that you feel. And the fire started on one side of these barrels, and the barrels blew up, and all that glycerol flew over the barrels of shit I had aging for 3 years. And that's a fire retardant.
So your barrels
Right?
you didn't lose your barrels.
I didn't lose any barrels.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? It was just,
Is it
Who knows?
also a really good flavorizer.
Well, you're,
I will tell
you're probably
you.
drinking the shit from it now. So
Hey, cheers.
I will tell you, there's a couple barrels that boiled out, and it went from 53 gallons down to like 20 gallons.
Oh, you aged it quick.
Yes,
That's
very
the
quick.
definition of rapid aging, right?
Yeah. So remember, this goes back to that barrel we have sitting back there that we're gonna bottle at 100 at barrel strength as a rye. That is the last surviving barrel from the fire.
Okay.
So it's 4 years old, but it's probably actually about 16 years old from the fire.
from the stress.
From the heat.
Oh, it's deep.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
it's
even
deep.
crazier that barrel it boiled out, like you said, but the barrel held together. Like it
Yeah,
didn't
nothing
leak out
yeah.
all over.
Nothing flamed out. When I was driving up, honestly, I was sick to my stomach. I'm like, man, fucking, if a fireman got fucking fucked up from this, I'll never forgive myself. Like, this is fucked up. I walked up and all the fire, like the whole fire department's on one side of the fucking parking lot, and they got hoses running inside, and they're like, "What's up, Andy?" I'm like, this doesn't look like a crazy fire. And they're like, nah, man, we cut a hole in the fucking wall and put a hose in there. Everything's cool. I'm like, oh God. Yeah. It was crazy.
Not a total disaster. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and that's, you just move forward. You get punched in the face, move forward.
Myself personally, I'm a recycling plant manager at a paper recycling plant. And I know exactly how you feel because we've had a fire started in one of the machines. Took the fire department time to get there. We were trying to do as much as we could with fire extinguishers. They got there, they put it out, and it trashed a $250,000 machine. But at the same time, this happened about 11 o'clock in the morning, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, our main machine, which wasn't trashed, we kept running it. But I mean, I remember taking bales of paper out of the plant on fire. The firemen were like, said, "Hey, take this." I got in a Bobcat. I was taking them out there on fire. You throw them out. It's just an experience that is not very fun. And then also we had a warehouse that burned up completely while I was on vacation, which was interesting. But then also in 2003, I had a basement house fire where I was very lucky to be able to get out alive with my family with no problems. But that in itself, that was similar to your fire where you didn't look bad. It was in the basement. It burned out the electrical and everything, but smoke had filled the whole house. So
it fucks everything up.
Yeah, and we had kids and toys, and all the toys had to be thrown away, all collectibles, anything in there, So basically, it didn't burn it all up, but you got to watch it all get shipped away and thrown out, and that's torture in itself. How much you have to deal with it and start over. But I also find that you started over, but you were starting over, but you weren't starting over because all your knowledge that you had learned, you were starting over with that knowledge opposed to, when you first started and everything you had to learn. So it's kind of like sometimes when you get a reset, you do it better, right?
Yeah. There was just that decision point, where I had to decide, do I want to move forward and start over, or, is it time go do something else? And like I feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, so I decided to move forward, and now we got all this.
So
what do you think about that sweet feed?
So the sweet
feed, that sweet feed,
I had some sweet feed, and it's exactly what it is. It's what you would expect. It's not bourbon, it's not like what you're doing, but what you taste is kind of like what you would expect. It's kind of like farmhand whiskey.
Yeah, it takes you back to my grandma's farm.
Yeah, if you're going, I liked it. There's, like I said, all four of the whiskeys that you sent me, I liked. And this is in its own category. It's a whiskey sweet feed. It's got a little bit of sweetness to it. It's not you taste it. It's not underage, but it's still on the bottom end of aging. You know what I mean?
And it's not barrel aged for years.
Right.
It's still got that young kind of moonshine hint to it, but then it's also got those complex wood flavors.
Wood.
And it's about the story.
So that whiskey's cool because we do it the same way I did it in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
Instead of a pot, we put it in a barrel, but we add French oak chips to it. So that's where you get all that dark color and a lot of that wood flavor. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But you still get that almost scotchy, young whiskey flavor.
Yeah, but it's not anyway, it's not astringent. There's no astringency to it. Like you could tell it's distilled properly.
There you go. Yeah.
And you don't got any ethanol.
There you go, Brian. Give me Nux.
Yep.
So, I definitely like it. So what's next? Let's just
you got the rye next.
Yeah.
Checkpoint rye.
Rye is one of my favorites to sample at liquor store tastings because I can turn non-rye drinkers into rye drinkers with that rye.
I was a non-rye drinker, but I found lots of ryes lately. I'm just not I don't like the dill pickle or the earthy flavor ride. I mean,
dill pickle with whiskey. Fuck off.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, now there's a place up here. It's called the distillery is called Minglewood, and they make pickle flavored whiskey, which is a whole different ball game because their goal isn't to have a little pickle flavor with whiskey. Their goal is to make it taste like you're drinking pickles. No. And it actually if you like dill pickles, it nails the shit out of it. And I actually like it, even though I can't stand a rye with dill in it. You know what I mean? It's like, holy shit, you guys. They're really good at flavoring whiskey. I don't know. I don't like flavored whiskey, but they are fucking good at it.
No pickle taste in ours.
Nah,
I'm sure the person that wants to drink dill pickle whiskey, he has already had some dill pickle.
There's not. Just so you know, it's on it just hit the shelves. Now I've only tasted it at the distillery in like little samples, and I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I don't like anything to do with dill, but this pickle whiskey actually, I mean, it's like a sweet, perfect pickle. I'm like, how the fuck do you do this? That's exactly what I said to him. But anyways,
we got way off track here with the dill pickles and shit.
I mean, seriously, if you guys ever came up, or I could give you a sample, and you can't, I would dare you to tell me it doesn't taste good if you like pickles.
I don't know.
Do you like pickles? Do you actually like pickles?
Sweat.
I actually don't.
No. Okay, so if you don't like pickles, you ain't gonna like this. I mean, but if you like a good dill pickle, it was like I was surprised. All right, so we're on the rye.
All right, we're on the rye. So the rye, Checkpoint rye. It's funny because originally when I first started, it was called Rally Point rye.
Yeah.
And another distillery in St. Louis, the guy called me. He's like, "Hey, bro, I see you're marketing a Rally Point rye. We have a Rally Point rye, and we got a trademark on it, blah, blah, blah." I was like, oh, shit. I didn't even look into it. They were super cool. They were like, "Hey, look, I don't know how many labels you got printed up, but, run through your labels. And then after that, you got to figure out another name." They were that distillery was big into NASCAR, so that's where the Rally Point came from.
Okay,
in the military, Rally Point is a big term for us for patrolling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just changed it to Checkpoint Rye. But anyway, so Checkpoint Rye it's only 66% rye, which is a lot lower than most ryes that you get on the shelf right now, right?
Yeah.
So it's got all the rye flavor, it's got the pepper, but it goes away. Like if you take a sip of it, you get all the rye flavor and nose, but then it goes away really quick. And I've never been a rye fan, but I knew that I had to do rye. And one of the things was take a shot of rye and it would just linger in your mouth for hours, you know?
Yep.
So I wanted to make this rye one that you can fucking drink it. It goes away. If you want to move on to bourbon, you want to move on to something else, you know, that's kind of where it came from.
I would think it's funny because all the old distillers, when you talk about rye, you talk about Booker and you talk about Jimmy, rye was made in a way to go into a cocktail like an old fashioned or whatever, so it
held up.
It held up. It gave that whiskey taste through whatever you were adding to it, and that's how they looked at it. You know, it's even same thing with barrel strength. It's like Elmer T. Lee and, you know, Jimmy and Booker. They didn't expect you to drink it at barrel strength. They wanted to offer it up and let you proof it to what you wanted to proof it to, put it in a mixer or whatever.
Right.
They weren't thinking that the whole world would just go fucking nuts and just start drinking barrel strength whiskey. They just weren't thinking, but we all did, right?
That's where we're at now. Yeah, that's where we're at now.
You know, there's some people that, you know, that's all they have to have. Their taste buds are so freaking dead that if you drink something at 80 proof or 90 proof, you know, that's just, you know, I mean, when I was growing up, drinking some Jack Daniels at 80 proof, I mean, for fuck's sake, it was hot. I spent half my young adult life trying not to taste Jack Daniels, because my dad was a big Jack, and he liked Jack on the rocks. He drank Jack Daniels, so I would be like, "Yeah, let's go, Jack Daniels. Let's see how I can get it from my lips to my stomach without tasting it." You know, because it was hot, and now people are like, you know, Jack Daniels, that's just pussy shit.
Yeah. So you got to talk to Brian. So Brian came to the distillery, not a whiskey fan, not a bourbon fan, not a rye fan, nothing. I'll let you take it away, man. Like it's a great story, like how he got kind of infused into Leatherwood.
Yeah. Well, I mean, without the long backstory, I ended up responding to a job offering on the internet. Ended up got a call the next day, and Andy's like, "Hey, if you want to come and check it out, you know, I'm just cleaning up and I'll show you around." So I showed up, he talked to me for about 15 minutes, and I was sold. I was like, "Yeah, I accept." So, you know, I took the role, and then he asks me, "Do you drink whiskey?" I'm like, "Hell no, I don't drink whiskey, man."
What did you drink?
You know, he's like, "Well, you know, how are you gonna make it?" I'm like, "I don't have a problem."
In the back of my head,
anything.
I'm like, "This is a problem."
He's like, "Well, what you know, how are you gonna make it?" He's like, "What do you drink?" And I'm like, "I drink vodka." He's like, "Will you drink whiskey?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I'll drink it if you want to see me power vomit." He's like, "I'll tell you what, why don't we go in here, you know, into the tasting room, and I will show you why you would drink this whiskey." And about 3 hours later, I was completely sold on it. It was some of the best tasting alcohol I'd ever had. And I got to tell you, my familiarity with alcohol was that'll make me throw up. That'll get me wasted. I can drink that pretty good for the rest of the night. You know, I knew how I was going to spend $300. And yeah, this stuff right here, I ended up tasting the Snake Eater. I was like, wow, this is actually kind of delicious. He was like, yeah. He's like, try the rye. You know, it's a little peppery, but, you know, give it a shot. And I'll be honest with you, man. I mean, it's pretty much the only thing I drank is a rye. It's wonderful, you know, then learning how to make it. You know what? I'll tell you what, I would definitely drink that. He has got a process dialed into the point where the results are consistent across the board. Yeah. I mean, it's just like following a recipe. So
what was your distilling history?
What's that?
What was your distilling history before coming here?
Non-existent.
Nothing.
I'm a consumer. You know what I mean?
And you want me
it's like a vocational hazard is getting wasted on the weekends and most of the time during the weekdays.
Was the ad for
what's that?
For a distiller?
Yeah.
All right, so here's how this went down, right? So I had some other guys working for me, and one guy was a retired MP. good guy. He fucking worked his ass off for me. He just got to a point. He's like, hey, bro, I think I actually want to be retired and kind of go do my own thing. I was like, cool. So I was like, oh shit, I need to, because I got to the point where I couldn't be the guy that was making everything, trying to sell it, run the business. So my wife, actually, she is a HR director for Habitat for Humanity. I called her. I was like, I need a distiller now. How do I hire someone? So she's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna throw some Indeed posts out. And so we put an Indeed post out, and I got like 25 people that replied to it. And I looked at them and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make piles. I was like, distilling history, brewing history, and then I was like military fucking service. So I started looking through like the distilling history, and I'm like, blah blah, fucking I don't know. And then brewing, I do home brewing, blah blah blah. And then I was like military. I was like, okay. So I opened up, and his was the first one on top. It was Brian. I was like, I read through it. I was like, infantry, 25 years. I was like, let me call this dude. Fuck it. Because those are my people, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would rather have somebody that I know I can talk to, and we can communicate in a way that most people can't.
Mhm.
So I called him. I was like, bro, what are you doing? He's like, nothing, just hanging out. I was like, can you come to the distillery? He's like, yeah. So he came down to the distillery. We talked a little bit, and we talked like fucking infantry dudes. I was like, man, I can fucking teach this dude anything. I know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Learning is everything. Yeah.
So I hired him before I even asked him if he fucking drank whiskey. You know what I mean? I was like,
Yeah.
man, I know how I know we can fucking communicate, and that's kind of half the battle in a fucking business, is being able to talk to your employees and like, and
I understand.
It's weird. You know what I mean? It's weird.
No, I understand. I'm a manager
from the infantry that nobody else has. And then like we could be pissed off at each other, like whatever. We'll just look at each other and be like, fuck you, bro.
Yeah.
Done. And then 10 minutes later, we'll be like, what are you doing over there? That's cool. You know what I mean? That's just the way we roll.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I get it. I manage people. I get it. It's like there's the people that, you know, the people that get it, that your guy that just when you tell them to do something, they listen. They might not be perfect, and they might not have certain areas you'd like them to do a little bit better. But overall, if that's the person and they listen and they work hard, you're on board. You know what I mean? And you can and you can teach them how to do stuff. You know,
not only that, but we understand that like none of us are fucking perfect, right? Like I can't. And like when we're in the back and we're distilling, like there are times where like I can't. There's no way you can write out a fucking list of how you distill shit, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, we run the still this way. This is how I do it. These are the flavors. This is the smell you should have, you know, and that takes time. But if I can just talk to you like a fucking bro, shit's gonna work out.
Yeah.
And that's it, man. And
you rub off on him, and then he also picks up on shit, and then he can add in his own shit without pissing you off.
Exactly.
Like he just doesn't go behind your back and do something and get you all pissed off because he has I get it. It's all about people. And so I mean, it is funny. You hired as your head distiller, a guy that's not distilled and he likes vodka. But at the same time, that's one thing that I found out about spirits just getting into this part as you get further and further in. I mean, you know, you drink shitty whiskey and you're ending up with a hangover and not going to work the next day. You drink good whiskey, same amount, and you're fine the next day. It's just
that's kind of
and you're like Brian was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought for sure. He's like, well, we're done drinking after about 5 hours. And he goes, I'll see you tomorrow morning. I was like, all right. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm so fucked. I'm not going to wake up because every time I've gotten this hammered, dude, I'd be lucky if I wake up before noon. And when do you know it, man? I mean, my phone went off. The alarm went off at 7:00 in the morning. And I was like, I was a little thirsty. That was about it. I was like, wow, this is some impressive stuff, man. Yeah. So
we got a
some
good
alcohol,
crew.
man.
We got a great team, and we make good shit. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So plug yourself. Let's talk about this last one.
Oh yeah. So Fucklehead.
Yeah.
That's how I got involved.
Yeah. So Fucklehead is a fun brand, right? We started out with the Fucklehead bourbon. And it was really, so a buddy of mine was like hanging out in Florida with his family, and his I think his 10-year-old nephew.
No, he's 8. No, he was 5 at the time. He's 8 now.
Okay. So they're down on the beach, and the kid goes in the water and he gets rolled up by a wave. And my buddy he's looking at him. He's like, hey, get out of the water, you knucklehead. And the kid comes out covered in friggin' salt water. And he's like, I'm not a fucklehead. And the whole family was like, oh my God, that is the best word ever. So they friggin' trademark it. And then he calls me. He's like, Andy, what do you think about making a whiskey called Fucklehead? I was like, let's do this, right? So we went through the gamut of logos, this and that. I was like, man, I just feel like it's got to have this fist. And then one of the cousins sent a picture to me of this little kid,
the same
at
one,
the zoo, and he's got his finger out like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that's the fucking logo
Right there. It's
right?
not the
You're
middle
not saying
finger.
fuck you. It's a little kid, it's
You're
a wrong
saying,
finger.
"Fuckle
This and
you."
that.
Yep.
So we started out with Fucklehead bourbon, and that one we source. We don't make that one. We actually buy barrels from Tennessee Distilling Company.
Okay.
It's a good bourbon. I think it's what we have. It's aged 2 years, so there's not a lot of depth to it. So we cut it down to 80 proof, and then we realized we're like, holy shit, this is like whiskey water, right?
Yeah.
It's like bourbon water. So we market it as a bourbon mixer, right?
Yeah.
It's a bourbon mixer for cocktails, right?
Or
Fucklehead is a lifestyle.
or it's a great bourbon to drink when you're when you're at your fantasy football or baseball draft.
Yeah, bringing it as a gift to anywhere, really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
it's
a drinking whiskey.
Mhm.
and really
Opposed
it's
to,
not about the whiskey. It's
sipping.
not even about the whiskey. It's about the brand, right?
Right.
Fucklehead, you're a fucklehead. We all like to get fucked up, right? And just look at that freaking label. It's funny.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to show you. So now we have a vodka that we didn't send you, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to get up close.
Thank you.
Look at this label. It's like, if it doesn't
It's
say
the
America,
best.
then you're a fucking piece of shit.
Oh, thanks.
Look at
Oh, yeah.
that.
Yeah, there you
it's
go.
smooth as fuckle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the whole thing.
How does that
And we're
sell?
really kind of catering to people that, maybe would like to get into drinking bourbon, but they're not into that 150 proof or 110 proof. Drink this. It's freaking smooth. It's easy. That's it.
Well, it's just like anything else with vodka. I mean, what the fuck's vodka? It's the odorless, tasteless thing that you mix with kiwi juice or you mix with cranberry juice, and it doesn't fucking change the flavor, and you still get fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. So what is vodka? It's the label is what sells it. How did
not even that. Even the bourbon.
Cool.
Even the bourbon is made to mix in cocktails, right?
Right.
Like, it's like, just like, okay,
but you're adding a flavor with bourbon. You know what I mean? That's what you're you can mix it in cocktails. You want to taste it.
And you can drink that Fucklehead bourbon, and it's just smooth. It really is smooth. You can just drink it. There's not a lot of depth to it, but it's great. You know what I mean?
That's not what Fuckleheads want. Fuckleheads don't want depth. Fuckleheads want to get fucked up.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Hey.
So that's kind of how I got tied into the whole Leatherwood scene. Is my family does the Fucklehead brand. So Lil Cooper.
So your family just wants to get fucked up.
Basically, yeah. Basically, my family has the most fun around the upper Tennessee and Kentucky and lower Florida area.
There you go. There's a shit ton of good whiskey in that area, and but there's I would agree. I like the label. It's got a real the Fucklehead has the craft distillery label. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like a craft beer. It feels like that craft beer label that you'll see on so many different craft beers, and it's exactly what you're looking for. It's something.
If you go into a store and you see that and you're looking for bourbon and you don't buy that, then fuck you.
Right.
Yeah, just
that's all I'm saying.
So yeah, exactly. But just ignore.
It's fucking funny,
that's not associated with Leatherwood. That's just fuck you. That's just straight up. Everything else,
Yeah. Well, no, actually, everything. If you don't like my shit too, fuck off. I don't. I just don't care.
Do you see why now that I have to approve the posts after?
Yeah, I do, but at the same time, seriously,
exactly.
Without the fuck off part.
Kaylee's got her hands full, man.
No, but realistically, there's no. I don't give a shit if you distilled the perfect bourbon. There'd always be someone else out there that wouldn't like it, because that's why whiskey's so great. You can find a rye that you like if you don't like rye, or you can find a bourbon if you're not a big whiskey fan and you start doing it and you start looking. There's always something for everyone. There's something for women. There's something for there's teenagers or not teenagers, 20 young people.
Prank call.
I mean, for me, it's like when I started, it's not like, but I think they all do, but then they all keep it secret now. But
no, I get you. Yeah, you're right.
So there's something for everybody out there, and that's one thing that I find really kind of a cool thing. There's concert whiskeys, there's whiskeys for fucking rock stars, there's whiskeys for people who want to kick back, there's backwoods whiskey. Everything's covered. You just got to find what at
Leatherwood, there's 18 different bottles on our bar that you can come up and try, and there's something for everybody. That's what we want to convey is craft is for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so do you guys want to? Okay, this is Kaylee's part. Let's give the promo part out to everybody. We'll finish up with where they can find you, get your whiskey, everything.
Yes. So you should definitely come. Just make the trip down to Clarksville and Pleasant View, Tennessee, which is our two distillery locations currently. Clarksville is where we're actually doing the producing now. So if you want to come catch Andy and Brian in their element, come by during the week. That's typically when we're running the still and doing all of the production stuff. But during the weekends and later nights, we have all kinds of stuff going on at our tasting bar, live music, games. We have cornhole, all kinds of good stuff. And of course, all of our cocktails, and we have bar food too. So if you're ever in this area, come on by. And please follow us on social media, Facebook, Leatherwood Distillery. We're pretty easy to find. Instagram, we have 2 Instagrams because some piece of shit decided to hack our Instagram that we had before. And so we started 2 new Instagrams. They both start with Leatherwood Distillery, but they end with PV and CV for Pleasant View and Clarksville. So give us a follow there, and you'll keep up with all of our stuff. And also, we post whatever Whiskey Warriors podcast puts out there as well.
And then also, if you're not in the area and you want to order stuff, just get on leatherwooddistillery.com. You can buy our products. We ship to like 37 states, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Just so you know, your website is pretty badass. I enjoyed your website when I was looking up everything to see, because I got it and I was looking it up, and it's informative as fuck. Because you want to know about you guys, it's there. You want to know about the whiskey, it's there. You want the it's a great website. So
yeah,
that's cool. And that's a shout out to Riley, who came up with this Rebel whiskey. Yeah. Riley built that. Our buddy built that website for us.
And if you can't find us locally, go bug your local liquor store. That's the best way to get us into new markets, is to go and have people request us at their new liquor stores.
All right. So thank you. I really appreciate your time. So that wraps up another podcast. I think very informative. Loved you guys and what you did, and I appreciate it. Everybody remember, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, www.scotchybourbonboys.com for everything Scotchy Bourbon Boys. You can get t-shirts, Glencairns, and whatnot. Otherwise, contact me directly, and I can work that out also. I'm Jeffrey Mueller on Facebook, and then also we are on all major podcast formats. Check us out there. Make sure you give us some good feedback, and then also we are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. So remember, everybody, thanks again to you guys. I appreciate your time. Wonderful setup, great quality. I don't always get that, and so I appreciate that. And then remember, good bourbon, good whiskey equals good times and good friends, and go out and live your lives dangerously.
And if you don't like whiskey, fuck you.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Little Steve-O.
Sorry, bro.
Take us. No, that's perfect. Dangerously and fuck you.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Whiskey bar. Don't ask why. Don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. If we don't find the next whiskey bar, don't ask why. We must die. If we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you.
All right.
I tell you we must die.
That part of the podcast, and let me just save it real quick. We're still on YouTube and Facebook, and I could talk a little bit afterwards.
Yeah. If anybody has any questions or anything,
but
the boys are ready to get back to drinking, I'm sure.
You can tell that they were ready to go. It was Lewis, right?
Luis, I don't know. I've heard it said many different ways. He says it in many different accents too. So, and he really, so he's not paid by Leatherwood at all. He's just part of the Whiskey Warriors podcast. So he's he's just part 3 of their little trio. Him, Brian, and Luis.
So he just comes down for that. He doesn't actually. Although he will help out whatever.
Oh yeah, whatever he needs to do. But mostly he is a loyal drinker and regular of our bar.
And he got on the podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Here we go. I'm going to start. I always like to get the building of the episode and I always make sure that I don't. Technically, as you know, sometimes you do things and you've got them and then all of a sudden they're gone and it really sucks. So I always make sure I get the the audio is the most important part. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, so you started there based off your husband's relationship with, or is it?
So
How did you get started there?
So I was working for another distillery, and then my family started the whole Fucklehead thing. And they, it was, I want to say late 2020. I was in the, height of my time at the previous distillery. We had started doing hand sanitizer. I was kind of headlining that. I was the, basically the management over there. And then they tried to kind of get me on early on. And I was like, listen, guys, this seems like it's kind of, just a side gig. I don't really want to leave my job for this. Like I'm not in the place where I can do that and not have some issues. So I stayed where I was, and about a year and a half ago, yeah, so it's almost March. So about a year and a half ago, in September of 2021, I ended up getting just fed up with how I was treated and stuff at the previous distillery, and I kind of just was done. And I messaged my uncle Craig, who he referred to as the guy that called my little cousin a knucklehead coming out of the ocean. So his name is Craig. He's my uncle. He is named Uncle Fuckle now. That's his nickname around the distillery. So I texted him. I just said, hey, I feel like my efforts and my, talents are being wasted out here. I need something new. And within 10 minutes, I was in a group chat with Andy, who you met. And Andy was like, hey, I need some new blood around this distillery. I need some people that are going to take a step forward and be leaders and things like that. And I was like, I mean, man, that sounds like exactly what I can do for you. I'm a manager over here. Like, I just am not being really recognized for it. And I think I could be a perfect fit for you. A couple weeks later, I started the day before my birthday. I got fired from the other job for wanting to go to this job. And
go figure, right?
Go figure. I tried to be really nice and leave them with a transition period and all this, and didn't really work out. So I was like, whatever. So I went and worked for Andy. I actually, when I got fired, I texted him. I was like, so I got fired. It didn't go as well as we thought it would. If you need me to start a little earlier for you, I can. So he called me. He's like, what the fuck? And I was like, I know. I was like, I don't know what happened, but I'm ready if you need me. And he was getting ready to open the second distillery in Clarksville. So he needed somebody to really step up and help him with that so that he could go out there and sell and focus on distilling and things. So I just kind of jumped into that role and played the part of a bartender for, about 2 or 3 months. No, it was about 2 months, because about mid-November was when I took over. He was on Fox News on Veterans Day and called me out of nowhere and was like, get on your computer now and start answering emails. And that was kind of the start of my, jumping from being a bartender to being full on management. For a while there, I was dubbed the head bitch in charge. That was my official title. And I finally, I was like, Andy, I need to order some business cards and I can't put the head bitch in charge on there. So you're going to have to give me something else, So we came up with the title of distillery director, just because I do so much stuff that it was kind of hard to narrow down to like operations or, management or whatever. So we thought distillery director was a pretty umbrella term for what I do. It's social media, it's philanthropy, it's scheduling, it's live music, it's literally everything. So what
a distillery director would do. I mean, that's a perfect, it's the right title.
Because I had to create a title for myself.
When you say distillery director, that means you're just directing everybody to make sure they're going in the right direction, and you're doing all the other stuff you need to do.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to direct him not to get banned on social media.
Yeah. I just am the one that takes the bullet every once in a while. Like the day that he texted me that, there's something in me that said, oh, Kaylee, you probably shouldn't post this. But you don't say no to a Green Beret, especially the one that is your, a former Green Beret that is your boss. So I was like, all right, I'll post it. So I did, and it got taken down.
So just so you know, so you want him to post something in social media and you think it's wrong?
Yeah.
Set it for friends. then
only friends can see it.
So only friends can see it. He sees it as if it's out. He'll never know, but the public doesn't see it. All the people who are your friends, but Facebook won't ban you for that.
Yeah, that's true.
I learned that.
Andy, if you're seeing this, he said it, not me.
Said it for friends. That's what he is. He shut us off. He is not seeing this. So, and this is the end. There's no way he's watching it all the way to the end. He doesn't got time for that. So, that is okay. So I get to do this and shut that off. That's saved. So, okay. That feels better.
Yeah.
All right. So, other than that, I mean, just it sounds like you guys are going in the right direction, and I mean, does the popularity of the distillery locally just keep growing and growing? I mean, you have 2 distilleries. Talk about that. Does Brian distill at both?
No, so we opened the new distillery at, the end of July of last year. And once we opened the new distillery, we still continued to distill at the old location for a few months while we were getting our new still set up and running. And so I'd say since the end of September, we've been fully running out at our Clarksville location, which does leave the question to, are we going to keep distilling out in Pleasant View? What's going to happen with Pleasant View? So we didn't really get to talk about it, but we are planning on opening up a restaurant in place of the distillery. So the idea being we are still going to be part owners of that restaurant. Our bartenders will still be the bartenders at that restaurant. Our liquor will still be at that restaurant. And even, right now we have barbecue nachos that we use from the guy that's going to be opening up the restaurant. So it's really just going to be a placeholder of the distillery so that we can focus on building out and continuing to grow the Clarksville location, the new location. It's a lot bigger.
As far as the restaurant goes, here in Ohio, there's a place called High Bank, and they do a lot of blending, but they will do a run on their still, because if you have a still, you can sell your liquor right from your restaurant.
Exactly.
Here in Ohio. So they have 2 locations, and the second location they put a still in, and the manager's like, we put the still in, but it barely works, but we got to run it once a year.
As long as you can keep something producing every year, then you can keep that distillery license. And I think that was our plan for a while, to do like experimental batches out at the other distillery and stuff, but it just became, we're a very small team. It's literally just me, Andy, and Brian. And then I have a team of now 7 bartenders that I coordinate. So, that's 10 total employees for the entire Leatherwood, besides our accountant. That's, that's all. It's a whole lot for us to be spread between 2 locations. So if we can kind of combine, the Pleasant View community is so small and tight knit, and Leatherwood has been a part of it for so long that we didn't want to leave it with that kind of, empty gap feeling. We're one of the only bars in town. People really enjoy it. They have their, set nights that they go out there. So we really didn't want to just leave and leave that building up to whoever to come along and make something out of it. We wanted to still be involved. We wanted to make it so that our cocktails are still being sold there. And yes, there will be other cocktails now too, but at least, if someone's coming and they found an old address on the website from, 2 years ago or whatever, they can still get a Leatherwood cocktail. They can still taste our products, and it'll still be part Leatherwood owned. So it's kind of best of both worlds there. Yeah,
that makes sense. Especially with how people run around now looking for distilleries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like there's a lot. It's just not local. People are like going all around Tennessee, Kentucky, and they find a small craft distillery. They've gone to the big ones, and now they want to find that little unique experience, and you guys are providing that. So
exactly. Yeah.
All right. thanks for coming on. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
absolutely.
it. I'm going to stop recording. Wait, I'm going to stop the Facebook Live first. Let's stop
There you
that. Well, thanks everybody on Facebook Live for watching. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And until Thursday, remember www.scotchybourbonboys.com and check out the Leatherwood Distillery. All right.
Thanks.
All right. We're off
All
of
right.
Facebook Live, and I'm going to stop. Thanks everybody on YouTube, and good night. I'm going to stop recording.
Dant Crossing, Gethsemane, Kentucky. Timeless hospitality that stirs the spirit. Dant Crossing is a one-of-a-kind destination for unforgettable weddings, memorable corporate events, day trips, and weekend getaways. The pastoral campus is anchored by Log Still Distillery and includes an amphitheater that seats 2,000, a 12-acre lake for fishing and unique lodging options, creating an immersive experience that's rooted in the community and culture of our little slice of Kentucky. More attractions will open soon at Dant Crossing, including our 21,000 square foot distillery, which we will have the ability to produce 15,000 barrels of spirit each year, a network of wooded walking trails, fully functional private train depot, farm-to-table restaurant, and the Legacy, a premier wedding and events venue. Whether you're looking to host an event, book a stay, or reserve a tasting, we're ready to welcome you. Learn more at dantcrossing.com.